And this image is just showing the process of glacial melting. It's showing the process of accumulation, movement of the glacier down, flowing downhill, sublimation, which is the ice evaporating directly into the atmosphere, and then also melting and calving, which is retreating the glacier as well. So there's two different methods for ablation or of the glacier disappearing, so to speak. And this is a horrible, horrible image, and I apologize for it, but glaciers are changing remarkably quickly. Okay, and you can type in glacial melting time lapse into YouTube and see how quickly these glaciers are melting, and I think we might have even looked at that in class before. Another thing we're going to talk about is land cover changes. So glaciers melt over a long period of time. And the first one we looked at, solar cycles move over a long period of time. So do land cover changes, and these aren't always natural changes. Okay, so some of these environmental changes are caused by humans, but they still occur over a large amount of time. So land use describes the human activities taking place on the land. So if you think back 100, 200 years ago, the land use would look very different to what it does now. So if you take maybe the suburbs of Melbourne 200 years ago would have looked like agricultural lands, and now they are residential high density housing, and they're not used for food production. And then if you go back another 200 years, you see that these are complex ecosystems, and also in the suburbs of Melbourne, you did have agricultural practices intertwined with these ecosystems, with the indigenous cultures that were still practicing their agricultural methods, and these were intertwined with the ecosystem, and then 200 years later they were fighting against the natural ecosystems, causing huge species loss and destruction to native habitats, and then now you see a completely different landscape which is almost unrecognizable. And these changes occur on quite a long time scale, okay, of multiple years to hundreds of years. So land use is determined by the land tenure, so whether the land is public or private in this day and age. Okay, so this is talking about now in today's day and age. If the land is public or private, that kind of determines what the land is used for. So land use alters the physical aspects of the land or the land cover. So it alters the vegetation type, the soil, the water bodies, the artificial structures that are on there. Land use alters everything about the land. So human changes to land have caused huge environmental issues, including but not limited to loss of biodiversity, salinity, which is increase in salts in the soil, erosion, deforestation, depletion of resources, increase in flooding, desertification, which we'll talk about next, climate change, and pollution of soil, water, and air. So human changes to land have caused so many issues. Really, it's one of the biggest concerns that we're fighting in trying to protect our natural environments. So mapping can help us monitor land use, the changes in land use, and provide information to help us manage land. So by keeping, I guess, a map and keeping a track of what land used to look like and what it looks like now and what it will look like in the future, we're able to just see the changes unfold. If we do not map, then we're unable to, because this occurs sometimes at such a slow rate, we're unable to identify when things have actually changed. So this video here, which I've linked in, is a must watch, and it is in the lesson plan. This shows land cover changes in the Amazon, and it's shocking to watch. But similar things have happened right throughout Australia. I mean, you think about the fact that 200 years ago, there was scarcely a single cleared patch of land on the Australian continent. And you consider how much land use change has occurred in 200 years, and how much must have been lost in that process. And the fact that it's still going today. Australia is listed in one of the top 10 hotspots in the world for land clearing, for deforestation. Australia is in the top 10. That's alongside countries like Brazil and the Congo and Indonesia. Okay, Australia is still clearing land at a remarkable rate, and it's quite devastating. So have a look at this video of what it looks like in the Amazon, and then I want you to ponder around the areas that we live. Have a think about what the land used to look like or might have once looked like around this area. What should the vegetation in Bairnsdale look like? What would have the land look like in the area that you live, and is it still in its natural state? What changes have happened over the last 10, 50, 100 years to that land as well? So with human land use changes, other issues arise and other changes arise. And one of those that was mentioned before is desertification. So desertification is the process of areas of dry land, so not desert, but dry land, so that's arid, semi-arid, dry, subhumid areas. It's the process of these dry lands under land degradation becoming deserts. So when these lands are degraded, these dry areas, when they're degraded, they become deserts. Desertification is caused by heavy farming practices, so like overgrazing, overcultivation, too much fertilizer, too much water extraction, deforestation. All these processes degrade dry areas, and if they're degraded too much, then they can become deserts. They can turn into deserts. Droughts and floods can exacerbate degradation, and we've already talked about Australia's droughts and floods, and where our land is degraded in Australia, and then there are extended droughts, and then floods which cause intense erosion of topsoil, this degradation can be exacerbated, and desertification is a huge issue in Australia. Our deserts in Australia are growing year by year because of this reason, because the land surrounding them is degraded, and that means that nothing grows, nothing holds the soil in, the soil can wash away, and we're left with the sand beneath and the infertile sands beneath. So climate change is causing increased desertification as well, because of increased greenhouse gases. As temperatures rise, there's less rainfall in some areas and stronger floods as well, which all begin to cause desertification. And it's almost, well, it's not impossible, but it's very difficult to restore land that has undergone desertification. We're going to look at in a second the lengths that some countries go to try and mitigate desertification, or the process of their land turning into desert. So you can have a look at this YouTube video here, which really looks into that in China, which is they're facing a huge issue with desertification. And the way that they're attempting to stop that is by building a Great Green Wall.